The Nature of Personal Reality, a Seth book by Jane Roberts, read by Martin John, final chapter, part 1, chapter 9.
Session 637, January 31, 1973, 9:05 p.m., Wednesday. Now give us a moment for dictation.
The you that you consider yourself is never annihilated. Your consciousness is not snuffed out, nor is it swallowed, blissfully unaware of itself, in some nirvana. You are as much a part of a nirvana now as you will ever be. To some extent, we have discussed your body and its composition of cells. All of the cells that now make up your physical form obviously exist at once. Imagine that you have many lives enduring in the same fashion. Instead of cells, then you have selves. I told you that each cell has its own memory. The self-memory is, of course, a far greater dimension. Think of the greater you. Call it the entity if you want to, as forming a psychic structure quite as real as your physical one, but composed of many cells. As each cell of your body has its position within your corporal space and boundaries, so each self within the entity is aware of its own time and dimension of activity. The body is a temporal structure. The cells, however, while a part of this body, are not aware of the entire dimension in which your consciousness dwells. They do not perceive all of the elements that are available even in three-dimensional experience. Yet your present consciousness, seemingly so much more sophisticated, physically rests upon cellular awareness. So the entity or greater psychic structure of which you are a part is aware of much larger dimensions of activity than you are. Yet in the same way, its more sophisticated consciousness rests upon your own, and one is necessary to the other. In physical life, there is a lapse while messages leap the nerve ends. In other terms and on other levels, this was represented in that moment of reflection that took place as man's consciousness emerged from that of the animals. Note, I did not say that man emerged from the animals. In still other terms and at different levels, this lapse occurs. This moment of reflection extends itself. As the self leaps clear of physical form, even as a cell at one time deserts the body. In this regard now, and for the sake of our analogy only, think of the life of the self as one message leaping across the nerve cells of a multidimensional structure, again, as real as your body, and consider it also as a greater moment of reflection on the part of such a many-sided personality. I make these analogies because they are pertinent, yet I am aware that they can make you feel small or fear for your identity. You are more than a message, say, passing through the vast reaches of a super-self. You are not lost in the universe. In a book we must use words, but such analogies can, if you will let them, conjure up within your imagination some feeling of your intimate relationship with all other reality. To some extent, the feeling of grace is your emotional recognition of the necessity, purpose, and freedom the innate appreciation of your rightness and your place in existence. Remember also, in your terms, the great gulf that separates you as a self from those cells that physically compose you. Your own present identity contains the knowledge and memory of all those simultaneous existences, even as the cells in their way retain memory of all those physical structures which they have formed. Consciously, because of your time concepts, you will interpret those simultaneous lives in reincarnational terms, one seemingly before the other. Your conscious ideas, expectations, and beliefs direct the health and activity of the cells. Period. The cells do not have free will in your terms. They have the innate capacity to form other organizations, but not while affiliated with you. To leave you, they must change their form. To some extent, you determine their good health within the framework of their nature. They also help maintain yours. In terms of consciousness, the entity or greater you knows as much more than you know, as you know more than the cells. Humorously, Seth made sure I noted down the last sentence correctly. You, however, do have free will, for while the entity's psychic structure can be compared to the body, it is a part of and inhabits far greater dimensions. All of this may seem to have little to do with your personal reality, yet your daily experience is as connected with your self or entity as it is with the cells of your physical form. There's an obviously innate relationship between each cell and another. There is a constant give and take and grouping of awareness within the body's own miraculous corporal structure. Your idea of reality and its experience is much different than that of any cell, yet each is interconnected. A group of cells forms an organ. A group of selves forms a soul. I am not telling you that you do not have a soul to call your own. You are a part of your soul. It belongs to you, and you to it. You dwell within its reality as a cell dwells within the reality of an organ. The organ is temporal in your terms. The soul is not. The cell is material in your terms. The self is not. The entity then, or greater self, is composed of souls. Because the body exists in space and time, the organs have specific purposes. They help keep the body alive, and they must stay in place. The entity has its existence in multitudinous dimensions, its soul free to travel within boundaries that would seem infinite to you. As the smallest cell within your body participates to its degree in your daily experience, so does the soul to an immeasurably greater extent share in the events of the entity. You possess within yourself all of those potentials in which consciousness creatively takes part. The cell does not need to be consciously aware of you in order to fulfill itself, even though your expectations of health largely influence its existence. But your recognition of the soul and entity can help you direct energies from these other dimensions into your daily life. You, dear reader, are in the process of expanding your psychic structure, becoming a conscious participator with the soul, in certain terms, becoming what your soul is. As cells multiply and grow within their own nature and the physical framework, so do selves evolve in terms of
value,
fulfillment. Souls are also creative psychic structures, ever-changing, and yet always retaining individual integrity. And all are dependent one upon the other. Souls make up the life of the entity in those terms, yet the entity is more than the soul is. Take a break. When you are aware of the existence of the entity and of the soul, you can consciously draw upon their greater energy, understanding, and strength. It is inherently available, but your conscious intent brings about certain changes in you that automatically trigger such benefits. The results will be felt down to the smallest cells within your body, and will affect even the most seemingly mundane events in your daily life. You're growing in consciousness. Therefore, using it expands its capacities. It is not a thing, but an attribute and characteristic. That is why your understanding and desire are so important. The processes initiated are beyond your normal awareness. They occur automatically with your intent if you do not block them through fear, doubt, or opposing beliefs. Imagine yourself as a portion of an invisible universe, but one in which all the stars and planets are conscious and full of indescribable energy. You are aware of this. Think of this universe as having the form of a body. If you want to, visualize its outline brilliant against the sky. The suns and planets are your cells, each filled with energy and power, but awaiting your direction. Then see this image exploding into your own consciousness, which is unbelievably bright. Realize that it is a portion of a far greater multidimensional structure, spread out in an even richer dimension. Feel the entity sending you energy as you send energy to your cells. Let it fill your being and then direct it physically any place within your body that you choose. If instead there is a physical event that you strongly desire, then use that energy to imagine its actual occurrence as vividly as you can. If you follow these directions and understand the meaning for them as given, you will find the results most startling and effective. Energy may be directed to any portion of the body, and if you do not block its actions by disbeliefs, that portion will be cured. Remember, however, if you hold the belief that you are a sickly person, that can hinder you. In that case, then, to change that particular kind of belief is your first concern. One of the purposes of this book is to tell you that no one is born to be a sickly person, so reading it can help you there. In your terms, if you believe that you choose illness to compensate for a past life deficiency, then it will help you to realize that you form your own reality now in your present, and can therefore change it. Later, we will discuss such matters as birth defects. Here we are speaking about conditions that can be physically corrected. but not the growth of an arm if you were born without one, for example, or the correction of other lacks in the body at birth. Your body is the basic product of your creativity on a physical level. From its integrity, all other constructions in your lifetime must come. Your greatest artistic endeavors must rise out of the soul in flesh.
With hyphens.
You create yourselves on a daily basis, changing your form according to the incalculable richness of your
Multitudinous.
abilities. So out of the soul's resplendent psychic richness do you spring with your free will and desire. You, in turn, create other living creatures. You also produce forms of art, fluid living constructs that you do not understand, in terms of society and civilizations, and all of these flow through your alliance with flesh and blood. This creativity, the strongest force within all reality, reaches from sources we have not as yet discussed in this book, down to the smallest atom and molecule. Your health is an extension of your creativity. So is your relationship with your mate, your boss, and the kinds of events with which you are uniquely familiar.
Now give us a moment. Next chapter heading. This one, I believe, is 9. Your body as your own unique living sculpture. Your life as your most intimate work of art. And the nature of creativity as it applies to your personal experience. That is all heading. Do you have it clearly? In session, peace, light, and love. Aloha.